Instead, I found this.
Groon Origin, Thundercats, Explained. Hello and welcome to another marvelous video. Calling in all Thundercats fans as we continue exploring another iconic character from the epic series from our childhood. The Thundercats embody great warriors who are always on the side of good, but back in the day, every decent weekday afternoon cartoon had at least one bad version of one of the good people. It is Groon the Destroyer for the Thundercats, a humanoid Sabretooth. If Jaga was the Obi-Wan to Lion-O's Luke Skywalker, Groon was his Darth Vader, except, not his father. Groon was a close friend and ally of the wise and powerful Jaga in the past, but he had gone wicked decades earlier, and the two Thundercats engaged in days-long combat. Who won? No, not like that. Continue watching to know about his exciting journey in the fantastic universes as shown in the different versions of the Thundercats. Before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us, it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Groon in the original Thundercats animated series. Groon is an anthropomorphic saber-toothed tiger who was once a Thundercat. He first appeared in episode 11 titled The Ghost Warrior from the original animated series released in 1985. The whole story of the episode must be explained to understand Groon's motives and desires. The episode begins with two young Bulkins being caught in a violent thunderstorm one evening. The two huddle under a nearby tree in an attempt to find shelter from the relentless rain. A bolt of blazing lightning strikes the tree, splitting it down the center and revealing a hidden room underneath it. The two enter the chamber in the hopes of uncovering some hidden treasure or riches, but instead unintentionally let loose the terrible spirit of Groon the Destroyer, who long ago wreaked devastation on Third Earth. The spirit of Groon, imprisoned for ages, goes seeking for a Thundrillium to strengthen himself. In his quest, he arrives at the Cats' lair, which he surprisingly finds on Third Earth. He enters the lair and begins consuming the Thundrillium supplies, while the Thundercats feverishly try to figure out what is generating all of the paranormal activity. Groon manifests in front of the Thundercats, teasing them, and finally leaves with the promise of meeting again soon. Groon begins his reign of terror on Third Earth the next day by smashing the settlements of numerous peaceful races such as the Bulkins, Wolos, and Burbils. He orders them to bring him fire rocks, a hazardous material whose extraction has been prohibited for a millennia. The horrified residents seek assistance from the Thundercats, alerting them of Groon's demands. Tigra recognized fire rocks as the same as Thundranium right away. Groon returns to the Thundranium pits, remembering the location, and forges a battle club from the material, while also growing in size. The Thundercats are still attempting to identify Groon after they are back inside the lair. Even the sight beyond sight of the Sword of Omens cannot provide any clarification. Not surprisingly, as Tigra notes, the sword has no psychic abilities. Then Cheetara discloses that while she has psychic abilities, her sixth sense, which enables her to have vision, using them is incredibly draining, and it can take her weeks or even months to recover. Nevertheless, she uses her psychic abilities to disclose that Groon was once a Thundercat and a close friend of Jaga. He had fought many battles alongside Jaga against Thundera's adversaries and was finally overtaken by avarice and became evil. It was thus up to Jaga to beat Groon and permanently banish him. Panthro believes Groon's vessel must have crashed on Third Earth, explaining his presence on the planet. A massive Groon then begins pounding Cat's lair with his newly created battle club, frightening everyone inside. Lion-O, knowing of his origins, summons Jaga, which Groon desired all along, a rematch with his old comrade. Groon successfully disarms Jaga during the combat, but Lion-O throws his mentor his Sword of Omens. The Thundranium radiation from Groon's battle club weakens Jaga as the battle continues. Lion-O orders Jaga to absorb his strength, allowing the older Thundercat to defeat Groon effortlessly. In the end, Groon withdrew the Sword of Omens from Jaga's belt, trying to trick him as he extended his hand in friendliness, but the sword totally rejected Groon, and he vanished without a trace. With the opponent defeated, Jaga replenishes Lion-O's strength and returns his weapon. Groon's story was not over though, as Mum-Ra brought him back to life twice in an effort to halt the Thundercats. Every episode of Thundercats had a solid moral lesson for the kids. This episode demonstrates how the abilities and qualities that every one of us have must be honestly assessed based on our performance, and our abilities must be applied wisely for the benefit of everybody rather than for our own selfish ends. The cohesion and welfare of society depend on each person's contributions to the common good. Ultimately, Cheetara, Lion-O, and Jaga's heroic sacrifices and proper use of abilities and skills balance Groon's brutality and misuse of his powers and gifts. The Clash of Best Friends, a single-issue comic book titled Origins, Heroes and Villains, was released by Wildstorm Comics in February 2003. The narrative builds additional Thundercats lore history and introduces new characters. In the first chapter of the first issue, we learn about Groon and Jaga's friendship, which soured over time and led to the final battle. The story starts with Groon and Jaga training with their swords, and Groon getting the better of his friend. Groon exclaims that Jaga is just rusty, as this is just training. If this were a real battle where Jaga had to protect Thundera, Jaga would have fought better. Jaga notices and admires his friend's skill set, which has not taken any dip despite the last battle taking place many years ago. This section shows Jaga and Groon's mutual respect for each other. Groon tells Jaga he is a warrior with no wars left to battle, and he is tired of defending the mortals of Thundera. In fact, he believed the mortals should serve and respect them as gods instead of the other way around. This made Jaga very angry as he slapped Groon. Jaga said it is their responsibility to protect the people of Thundera who cannot defend themselves. The next day, Groon attacked Thundera by creating a coup, and Jaga had to face his old friend. They battled it out for many days, with ultimately Jaga getting the upper hand. Groon begs Jaga to kill him and spare him from his boredom and life, but Jaga couldn't finish off his friend out of honor and love. Groon was imprisoned in a crystalline pod and sent into space by Jaga using the Sword of Omens. Groon in 2011 Thundercats reboot. His story was changed a bit in this version with more emphasis on his past. Groon was one of Thundera's most renowned generals and a personal ally of King Claudius. Groon and Panthro first came into contact when fighting the Lizards early in their careers with the Thunderian army. Both started at the bottom of the ranks, but rapidly rose to the top because of their valor and talent. Groon always craved more, despite being a friend of the king and having respect from all of Thundera. He disclosed to Panthro his desire to rule the world one day. Claudius made the announcement that Linkso, the blind general of the Thunderian army, would be the new army general, not Groon or Panthro. Claudius gave them a completely new assignment, to search Third Earth for the Book of Omens. Years went by as Groon and Panthro continued on their journey, which Groon first thought was a kingly plot to get rid of his ambition. Groon eventually heard a voice calling to him as he was traveling through a desert. He followed the voice until the speaker directed them to a black pyramid. He found Mum-Ra within, freed him, and he instantly promised Groon all the authority he wanted in return for his allegiance. He also declared his intention to take back the Eye of Thundera. When Panthro refused to accompany them, Groon turned on him and threw him into the pyramid's abyss. Groon was, after that, appointed a commander among the Lizard's top brass. He stated that Panthro was killed in combat and returned to Thundera with what appeared to be a prize for his king. Groon attended the welcome back feast prepared by Claudius while concealing his actual intentions, and there he informed Lion-O that he had never seen any technology in his travels. The Trojan horse that Groon had brought back as a prize was actually a commando unit of lizardmen, including Slithe, who destroyed the Kingdom of Thundera from inside, exposing Groon's treason when the Lizardmen army attacked Thundera. Later, after Claudius was murdered and the realm of the Thundercats was destroyed, Groon stood with Mum-Ra as he was unveiled. He tried to find the survivors, but Jaga stopped him and was taken prisoner by their troops. Then, while they searched for the location of the Book of Omens, Groon stood with his Lord Mum-Ra as the undead sorcerer tortured Jaga inside the Black Pyramid. Despite the disloyal cat's skepticism, Mum-Ra transferred Jaga's energy into a lantern and used its power to direct it toward the rumored location of the Book of Omens. While Slithe led an expeditionary force to track down the runaway Thundercats, Groon went to Cloud Peak Mine to supervise the army's mining of Thundrillia, the army's power source, and, according to Groon, the lifeblood of Mum-Ra's army. Groon was shocked when the Thundercats arrived in the mine, accompanied by Panthro. Groon did not remain to battle, since he was disappointed that Panthro was still alive.
Don't lecture me, Panthro. If it's revenge you seek, then come take it.
Instead, he told Driller to fight them as he fled the mine. He is subsequently seen at the Elephant's Village in episode 12 of season 1 titled Into the Astral Plane, looking for the Spirit Stone. Thundercats emerged in their thunder tank, and with the assistance of the Sword of Omen, Lion-O discovered that Grun and the Lizard Army had seized the elephants while searching for the stone. However, because Grun is unaware of the stone's exact location in the hut, the treacherous general has ordered to murder the forgetful animals by the time the third moon rises, if they do not give him what he wants. When darkness falls, the Thundercats move slowly and stealthily, dispatching several lizards until Wily Kit exposes their presence. Afterward, Grun threatens to murder the elephants unless the cats give in. Grun commands Lion-O to use the Sword of Omens to unlock the portal to the astral plane that is concealed in a cottage. When the Thundercats comply, Tigra, who had previously escaped detection, makes a triumphant comeback into Thunder Tank as Lion-O is engaged in this action, tipping the balance back in the cats' favor. Grun and his army are successfully forced to flee by the heroes. We see Grun for the final time in the following episode titled Between Brothers. The Thundercats keep watch outside the hut that contains the portal that leads to the astral plane, as Grun, Slythe, and the entire lizard army encircle the Elephant Village with their arsenal of mecha war machines, in order to prove to Wily Kit and Wily Cat that Grun isn't someone who gives up easily. Panthro recounts to them the tale of how Grun once tore out his own saber tooth in order to slay Spidera, a legendary spider monster who held Grun and Panthro hostage in her nest. While the elephants choose to retreat and meditate, the army attacks the settlement, and the Thundercats prepare for war. Grun and Panthro decide to engage in hand-to-hand fighting till death as the conflict intensifies. Later in the battle, the elephants enter the fray, tipping the scales away from Slythe and the lizards, who abandon the combat area. When the astral plane begins to collapse, Grun becomes imprisoned in the vacuum as the portal closes and holds Panthro's arms for dear life, warning him that he must release him or they will both perish. Panthro answers with the exact words Grun told him years ago: "Any sacrifice is worth to conquer the enemy," and pushes Grun ultimately through the vortex, trapping him in the collapsing dimension and ripping Panthro's arms right off his shoulders. It is uncertain if Grun was slain or stranded in another realm, as he did not make an appearance in the remainder of the season, and the series got cancelled after that. What makes Grun so powerful? The original version of Grun is a competent and ruthless fighter. He is incredibly skilled in hand-to-hand combat, and can utilize any weapon he can get his hands on. He also has a typical Thundercat-like strength and agility. Since his death, his spirit form has given him increased power and the ability to materialize and dematerialize at will, and become invisible. Despite being a Thundercat from Thundera, Grun appears to be immune to Thundranium, a material that severely weakens and can kill all Thundercats, even Jaga's soul. Grun gains an edge as a result of this. Grun holds a spiked mace made from Thundranium by himself. This makes it a potent and lethal weapon against the Thundercats. We also see him using a sword quite well. For the 2011 version, just like the original, Grun is a huge brownish-furred cat. His big saber tooth is a prominent feature that distinguishes him from other Thunderians, and he is shown battling with an electrically charged mace-like weapon. Grun showed early ambition, telling Panthro, "Grunt work wasn't what I had in mind when I enrolled." Though courageous, talented, and fearless on the battlefield, his thirst for personal glory and refusal to obey the legitimate monarch proved to be his doom. Grun abandoned Thundera because Mumm-Ra provided him with the tools to achieve his ultimate power desires. In his paranoia, he assumed Claudius had sent him and Panthro on a wild goose chase to eliminate danger to his kingdom.
The final conflict!
Marvelous verdict. Grun was reportedly active on Third Earth years ago, which means his early struggle with Jaga happened years before that, which makes him one of the oldest characters along with Jaga in the Thundercats world. Grun, a Thundercat, served as Thundera's army commander before he betrayed his friend Jaga. His great-grandfather was also Lord Commander in this time. He is a mighty warrior. However, his Achilles heel is his avarice and obsessive desire for power. He fails to think things through and allows his emotions to get the best of him. As a result, he is predictable. Is he all bad? Absolutely not. A lot of character is shown in his arc. He had respect for Jaga, but he was a warrior above everything else, who was misguided by his desires. Grun's perspective on Thunderian civilization, its caste structure, and how his people should advance is what makes him so appealing. It makes us think of villains like Zod and Maximus the Mad. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks everyone.